Hey everybody, welcome to the Catch Up After College podcast. We may be post-graduation, but we're never post-education. I'm Isaiah Brown,
Oh,
your host. Thank you for coming on today. Thank you for joining us. Today we have the super motivating Laura Browder here with us. What's happening?
hey, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's all good. It seems like Wednesdays are Laura Browder days now since, last Wednesday, but it's pretty cool.
Oh my gosh, I did see you on a Wednesday.
Yeah, good times. How was the Bay Area when you visited?
I got lucky. The weather was really, really good. Like I decided to walk across the Golden Gate Bridge and back. And when I went across, I did the little hike up to the top and I captured this beautiful photo of the bay and the bridge and which I just thought was cool at the time. But I've had a lot of people be like, the weather's never that clear. Like normally, like you got lucky. And so just made me feel really spoiled that I got 60-degree sunny weather while I was in San Francisco.
Nice. Was it pretty windy that day for you or like
No,
crossing the
it was
bridge?
great. I thought
Okay.
I actually was getting a little hot. I brought an extra jacket. I thought it was going to be really windy, and it really wasn't.
Yeah. That's cool. All right. Nice. Glad you had a good time,
Yeah.
It's all about the Bay. Well, I guess I can say that now, even though I'm from SoCal, but you know. But we've known each other now since 2013. That's pretty crazy. Huh.
That's
7 years.
crazy.
Yeah. So I think the first time uh me and my roommates met you, like we didn't live too far from each other. Like you guys were in the next building over or so, were you? In like the
Yeah,
Meritons?
like the Samaritans. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to quiz you. Do you remember the movie that we watched, my roommates with your roommates when we hung out the first time?
Oh man, that's a killer question.
I could give you some hints if you need them.
Give me one hint.
All right. Reese Witherspoon.
Sweet Home Alabama?
It's a
No.
very unfamous movie.
I don't know. I'm
Okay.
in, I'm impressed that you remember this.
No, I actually had to Wikipedia it to find it. I just remember the actors in it. But
Okay.
Chris
What?
Pine, Tom Hardy.
Oh, where she dates both of them.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't even know what the name of that movie is.
Yeah, but you know
But
it.
they're both fighting over her.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And like
Yeah.
the yeah, that's so funny. That was the first time I met you.
Yeah. It's a cool movie, I guess.
It was
It was
funny.
just
It was
yeah, it's
funny.
pretty upbeat. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
called
I mean,
the
Tom Hardy and Chris Pine are beautiful men, so no complaint.
yeah, they're cool, I guess. Yeah.
They're cool. They're cool. My bad. They're cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It was This Means War.
Yes, yes, yes. Good memory.
Yeah, good times. Yeah. But you mind telling us where you're from?
So I'm originally from Dallas and went to Texas A&M University. And then after that, I got a bunch of job offers, but then decided that I wanted to move to Australia. Actually, I decided I was going to move home to study for the GRE so I could go become a professor. So I turned down all these job offers so I could go home. And then my friends all had an intervention. They're like, you're not meant to be a professor. But I was like, I want to be a professor. And then next thing you know it, I'm flipping through a magazine and I see this ad for this college in Australia. And I was like, this looks sick. And so I just immediately signed up for it. Next thing you know it, I thought I was going for 1 year, ended up doing like 4, went to Fiji, Bali, New Zealand, snorkeled the Great Barrier Reef, had a great time. And then I was going to move to London or Cape Town, but then decided last minute I had this random layover in LA. So you have to understand that Los Angeles was never on my radar. Like I didn't know anything about it, didn't really care. And I'm from Dallas, so I always flew direct from Sydney to Dallas. And I did this every year for 4 years. So my very last flight there, I had a 15-hour layover in LA.
Whoa.
And I was sitting on the steps of Huntington Beach where I just felt like I was meant to live in the city. So next thing you know it, I come home from Australia. I pack my bags. I only have $1,500. I have no job, no idea what I'm going to do. And I drove by myself to LA. Next thing you know, I've been here 6 years and I don't know, life's fun.
Yeah. Wow. So just like that, what? That's crazy.
I mean, I'm
Wow.
kind of crazy.
No, it's all good. So, wow, you get to LA. How did you find housing and all that?
Okay, so this story is crazy. So I drive in, I literally have no money, which was dumb of me, but also whatever. And because it took me 3 days, because I stopped at the Grand Canyon, I just took my time. I drive into LA. My car is still packed. And my friend goes, "You've been driving for 3 days. Come take a spin class." I'm like, "What's spin?" So I pull into downtown LA, park my car at this grocery store, and I'm signing up to take this spin class. Upon filling out all my information in the liability release, they were like, "Do you need a job?" And I was like, is this a joke? And then I was like, "Yeah, sure." Next day I interview, I start working front desk. Fast forward, I'm now a spin instructor. And I used to be a studio manager of a spin studio. So it was all funny that literally the day I drove in, and then I was staying with a friend. I kind of crashed on her couch for about a week. And I was going to a church in downtown LA at the time. And so one day I was driving in and I saw this apartment complex saying like now leasing. It's called the Medici, and it's this bougie place that a lot of like FITM and USC kids stay at. And next thing you know it, like within a week, I had a job in an apartment, and it was just crazy. And so that's kind of been LA for me. Just the unexpected opportunities have just kind of come to my lap.
That's crazy. And who would you like, or where would you put the blame? Like networking, would you say that really helped you, or it's just a God thing, or
Dude,
kind of both?
total God thing. And so like not to jump ahead of it, but so here I am thinking I'm gonna like work in hospitality or try to hustle for some career, and I'm working at a spin studio. A couple months in, I get approached by this woman from my church, and she's like, "Hey, I think you should be our volleyball coach."
Hmm?
And I was like, "That's so random. I've never played volleyball." She's like, "No, I think you'd be really good. I think you should come and interview." So I was like, "Well, I need a job." So I drive out to the suburbs of LA, and this guy starts interviewing me, and he's asking me all these volleyball questions. And I was like, "I need to stop you, sir. You need to know that I have no volleyball experience. Like I've never played. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know how to coach. I know how to build a team. I know how to condition and run practice. But more importantly, I know how to invest in people. So if that's what you want, I'm the perfect person for this job." He ends up giving me the job. I show up. There's only 4 kids that show up at my tryouts. He hands me a bag of like ripped beach balls. And I get on YouTube, man, and I just learn what volleyball is. Like I didn't even know how to put the net up. I didn't know any of the positions and defensive schemes. And fast forward 6 years later, I'm now coaching at the #1 club in Los Angeles. It's ranked in the top 10 in America. I coach at one of the best high schools in the area. And I've been coaching volleyball for 6 years, and it's been crazy. So I teach spin and coach volleyball, and both of those opportunities came within the first 3 months of me living in LA. So it's just kind of crazy how God works sometimes.
Yeah, that is crazy for sure. And what are 2 tips you would give if someone wants to coach a championship winning team?
Man, culture is everything. If you build the right culture and you cast the right vision, a lot of the work's already done for you. But too often, a lot of coaches sometimes only focus on the technical sides of volleyball, which is great. But technically, when you're in the game and you get punched in the mouth, or you face adversity, or you're off and your kids don't have a greater vision or a greater culture that they've bought in besides just their own selfish play, they crumble. And so I always tell my kids, pressure either breaks pipes or builds diamonds. And so I'm constantly coaching their mentality. I'm coaching their hearts and coaching their bodies. And a lot of that comes out of culture. And it's a culture of excellence, culture of family, culture of fun, and just this idea of being intrinsically motivated. That's something I really, really try to instill in my kids. Is it's great that you want to play your heart out for your parents or for your friends or to impress somebody. But at the end of the day, like those things are only going to take you so far. But when you show up every day and you want to be the best version of you so that you can get the best out of your teammates, I've just found a lot of success by just really casting great vision and building great culture.
Nice. That's awesome. Can you think of any teachers who have been pretty amazing to you that have been influencers on you for this team that you're coaching?
For this particular team, no, but I think like I've just had a lot of great mentors in my life that have just modeled kind, like great behavior. Like even Katrina Henderson, I had an opportunity to intern with her when I was at this college in Australia, and she just gave me the space to be me and gave me the space to make mistakes. And I don't know, that's kind of something for me as a coach. I try to like give that space to my kids. Like I always want them to know, and I reinforce that in my culture, that this is a safe place for you to fail. I actually want my kids to embrace failure. I always say that failure inspires winners while failure defeats losers. And failure is this gift because it gives you an opportunity for you to realize, hey, there's an area of my life I need to get better at, or I need to improve at. And but that's something that isn't taught like in a moment. It's taught over time, and it's constantly reinforced. But yeah, I'm really just a product of a lot of people that have seen my potential and have given me the love and grace to go on that journey of maturing it. So I try to pay that forward with my kids.
Yeah. I like how she gave you space to do what you got to do. I was thinking of a friend of mine, well, Luke Pallas, like the person he was interning for, he did the same thing for him because he was just killing it, his ministry, miracles and all that crazy stuff. Listen to his episode if you want to hear more. But how do you know when to give someone space or to set goals? And because I was one of those people, I just go with the flow. And the person I was interning for, David Crass, he knew he had to set some goals for me because I was a little too chill. If you give me space, I'm just gonna do nothing. So
it's so funny that you asked that, because I'm obviously not a parent, but I feel like a parent sometimes, because I feel like part of my job is learning the art of learning to put enough pressure on kids so that they feel challenged and they get outside their comfort zone, but not putting too much pressure where they fall over. And sometimes I do a great job of it, and sometimes I'm like, ooh, that was too much, or that wasn't enough. And so I think just constantly being aware, and I think that's why I've fallen in love with coaching, not necessarily the volleyball aspect, but learning how to identify what motivates and inspires people, because everybody's different. So like, I'm the kind of person, if you're like, that over there is impossible, I'm like, I'm going to show you that it's not. But like with some of my kids, if I tell them, oh, that thing over there is impossible, they're like, then why do I try? Like if it's impossible. And so I've had to really grow my ability and my awareness to recognize my kids, what motivates them. And a lot of that comes out of relationship, and I'm just fortunate that I'm wired like that. Like I love taking my kids the Jamba Juice after practice. I love just hanging out with them and just getting to know them better, because then it helps me find whatever is going to light their fire a little bit. Some people need to get freaking yelled at. Other people I can just pull aside and be like, hey, Isaiah, can you just fix this? And they're like, okay, sure. Right. Like it's just different. And so that's why coaching is the best. Every team has different challenges, different opportunities, and every kid has different kinds of baggage and trust issues and fear and insecurity. And so I'm constantly just trying to clean it all up.
Yeah. I like the career path you're on as well. It seems like you're doing many things at the same time, because you also have another job as well. But do you ever see yourself working just one full-time job, or do you like doing juggling a lot of stuff at the same time?
I kind of like the juggle, except for right now in COVID, my juggle is really hurting. So in an ideal world, I would teach volleyball, teach spin and fitness classes, and work part-time for my church. And to me, that sounds like a dream job. I don't think I'd want to do any of those full time. I think I'd get really bored, but I like what each of those things brings out in me and how it grows me and my ability to lead, inspire, motivate, communicate, because they're all very different and they all make me really happy. So hopefully I can do all three of them in the next year.
Yeah, for sure. And as you went on your LA journey, you mind telling us the church journey you went on while being there too?
Yeah. So when I first moved to LA, I came out here and I helped kind of start up with Hillsong LA. They had gone here just a year prior. And so that was really, really cool to be a part of a church that was in the beginning. LA was very different compared to most other church plants. Most church plants start with small groups and then grow to a Sunday morning service. But from the get-go, LA had just hundreds and hundreds of, if not thousands of people lined up ready to go, which was interesting, but it had its own challenges because you have all the numbers, but you don't have the culture, and you don't have the leadership development, and you don't have the small groups, and you don't have people feeling connected. And so that was interesting, trying to be a part of a solution to that rather than just, criticizing that. And I don't know, I really enjoyed those years. Where I started to switch is, at the time I was coaching volleyball in Santa Monica. So if you are from Los Angeles, trying to drive from Santa Monica to downtown at 6:00 during the week is, I don't even know what's worse than that. It's pretty terrible. Like, I was going to give you an analogy. I think that's about it. And so I would get out of practice around 6 or 6:30, and it takes 2 hours. So I would miss Sisterhood United because all this stuff started at 7. Mm-hmm. I would miss Heart and Soul. I would miss most Sunday services because I also had tournaments and stuff on the weekend. I missed connect groups. Like, the closest connect group I had was still too far. And I was getting frustrated because LA is a crazy city and there's a lot going on. And I remember I told God, I was like, I'm not going to make it in this city unless I can find Christian community. And not being able to go to these things, as much as I loved Hillsong, I was like, I think I have to find something that's going to be a little bit more long-term for me. So I found this amazing church in Santa Monica. It's called Vintage. It's a Nikki Gumbel church plant. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. It's a like charismatic, what is the oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on its like theology, but it starts with an A. I know this, sure. Whatever. Anyways, super big into doctrine, super big into like smart people, but also we're like, we believe God can heal you, and like, let's pray for the prophetic. So it was amazing. And now I'm getting out of practice at 6:30, and I would go to Alpha at 7. I go to my connect group at 7. We did this things called Kingdom Come nights where we would have a 2-hour worship set. And I got super involved with church because church helped me freaking waste time for 2 hours until I could get back to LA because I lived in downtown. And that was great. And I went there for a couple years. And then last year I got headhunted to coach at this awesome high school. So I had been driving out to the suburbs and was very happy there. But this school came after me and they're like, we'll pay you 4 times whatever you're making. So I was like, where do I interview? And that school is near Pasadena, which is like north of downtown. And I live in Silver Lake, which is like the coolest neighborhood in LA. Just to put in perspective, it took me about an hour on Sunday to drive to Santa Monica, and then to do an 1.5-hour service and then drive an hour home, which I didn't mind doing that. But then all of my friendships were all living in Santa Monica. And like I just mentioned, during the week, I couldn't ever see them. I couldn't go to Connect Group. The commute was just too far. So once again, I hate church shopping and like church hopping, but I was like, the reality is my life is a little bit more here on the east side of LA. So luckily for me, my therapist referred me to this amazing church in Pasadena called New Abbey. And I started going there in like October, November last year. And now I'm on staff at it. So look at that.
Nice. That's
a long story. I'm so sorry.
No, that's kind of the whole point of a podcast, is to, talk and share. So,
all right.
But I think one of the coolest things you told me about the church is the job titles. You mind telling us yours and the other ones?
Yeah. So I'm the care and leadership development pastor. So on one hand, I'm doing pastoral care. I love that, like, part of my job is just to meet up with people for coffee and just connect with them and make sure they feel loved and celebrated and safe. And it's been really, really cool. We have such an eclectic, diverse group of people that come to our church. And I'm someone who believes that wisdom is not taught, it's gleaned. And so in a weird way, I've been gleaning just so much goodness from just meeting up for people for coffee that I just love that. And then on the other hand, I'm part of leadership development. So who knows with COVID, but in an ideal world, I'd love to start planning some retreats for our youth, for our adults. I'd love to run some life course or run a smaller group, help do some leadership development. Because I'm naturally wired. I'm passionate about anything that involves growing and getting outside your comfort zone and maturing and integrating and all those things. They just get me excited. So it's kind of my job. And yeah, we do have a justice pastor, which is like pretty sick. I actually just got coffee with him before I came here. And I love being a part of a church that's very, very relevant. I don't want to use the word woke, but you could say woke too. Church that will directly address from platform, Juneteenth or I don't know, just like Stonewall riots, like the anniversary of that. We preached out of that on a Sunday, or I don't know. It's been really, really, really refreshing. We have a very, very, very smart, welcoming yet open-minded congregation that's just willing to just ask the tough questions in life, and it's been really fun.
Yeah, it seems to be really diverse. What do you think about? Well, actually, the staff there, they're pretty diverse as well, right?
Yeah.
Like just ethnicity and male, female, and then even like sexual orientation as well. Like, how do you feel that the staff needs to reflect who you're trying to reach when you think of that?
No, so I love that. So we have about 9 staff members on our church, and 5 of them are gay, which is great. Like, I just love that, because I was talking to Isaiah how representation matters, whether it's around race or sexuality or just ageism. Like, I hate sometimes the people that are in their 50s or 60s feels like they can't sing in church anymore because they don't look cool and young. Yeah. Sometimes a lot of churches only put like young, attractive people on platform. It's like,
oh yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy. So representation matters. And I'm lucky that when I was like 19, I was doing Young Life while I was at Texas A&M. And they taught us that. They said, if you look into your club, which is what we called our Monday night, gathering, and if the kids that are coming to Young Life don't reflect the demographic of the school, then we're missing out on a group. So our high school that I was at was 30% white, 30% black, 30% Latino. And I remember there were times where sometimes Young Life was only white kids. And there was one time that Young Life was only black kids. And then kind of like my junior, senior year, it was everybody.
Nice.
And that's when we knew that we were doing our job, because we reflected our community that we were trying to reach. So I love that my pastor is aware of that he does such a great job of bringing, we have everybody from a 22-year-old to a 62-year-old on our staff. We have we have trans people on staff. We have gay people on staff. We have straight people on staff. We have married people. We have single people. And we're someone that believes that rather than uniformity, we're all about unity. And we actually need diversity, because being able to see diversity in those around us, we're able to see God more. Like, it helps us to see the diversity and the beauty that God brings to this world. So I don't know. I love it. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And thinking back on the Young Life thing, what was the demographic of the volunteers, like the leaders?
We were kind of a mix. We kind of represented the same demographic, if I'm being honest. So like they did a good job of setting our team up well. We reflected the exact same demographic of the high school.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I just think that's so important, a church that just looks exactly the same. How are you going to reach a diverse world if you don't have anyone that looks like you? But at the same time, it gets a bit rough, so like, you don't want to use people just because they look a certain way and just because you're trying to reach a certain audience. How do you guys maintain that authenticity of like, whether it be putting people on platform or so, and it's not just a certain time of the year, like if it's a black person for Juneteenth in February, how do you make sure you do that year wide, keep the authenticity?
I mean, I know it's like not a great answer, but it's because it happens every Sunday. Like, all of us get on stage at certain points. There's yet to be a Sunday where there isn't a gay person on stage. There isn't a person that's not just white on stage. Like, it happens every Sunday. And I'll never forget. So I just came out as a queer woman in like September of this year. So it's very fresh. And I'll never forget the first time I came into church and I see Corey, who's a 36-year-old straight white man married with children, from platform saying that, like, God loves you not despite you being gay, but because you're gay, and that you're welcome here. And I never, ever, ever heard from platform a lead pastor say that. And I just like cried, because I was like, wow, we're legitimately welcomed here, because a lot of times churches are tolerant of people that are gay or trans. But like I said, there's a difference between tolerant and affirming, because if they're not affirming, then you're never going to see them on platform. You're never going to see them wear a leadership title. You're never going to see them have a voice. They can show up, they can sit in your seats, they can be part of your numbers and your growth plan, and they can give you money while they tithe, but that's about it. And I just couldn't believe it. And so every week we start off every service, it's our unity prayer, where we talk about that, we're all welcomed here, because we all believe that you're made in God's image, whether fill in the blank, right? And so because you're made in the God's image, like, we have all equal value before him. So it's pretty cool.
Man. And when I'm thinking about your church, I'm thinking about like people I could invite there, because I have my cousin, he's a good friend of mine. He's gay and he kind of lives in the LA area and all that. And I'm thinking, like, have you ever got to a point where you feel a bit uncomfortable inviting someone to to a conservative church, and like, because of their sexual orientation, they might be discriminated against? Or how do you feel about that?
Or judged.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, I hate that, because it's like, as I've been in part of some great churches, like, don't get me wrong, and it's like, but all it takes, like, people aren't stupid. They know when people are looking at them sideways. They know when people feel uncomfortable by their presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that, like, I feel 100% comfortable bringing non-Christian people. Like, you could believe anything. You could be a different religion, and you are so welcome at our church. And I don't even mean that to, like, that's the cliche thing to say. Like, you 100%, because our environment and our culture is that we want to be a safe place for people to deconstruct their worldviews, whether they're Christian or not. And what's crazy is our environment, because people know that, and because people don't feel like there's some agenda is being pushed down their throats, that it's actually a safe place, people flock there that aren't Christians, just because they enjoy having that community where they feel safe to question and to wrestle and to deconstruct maybe family systems or political systems or racial systems. And we have the kind of community that wants to have that dialogue. We don't run away from it. We lean into it, and we respect differences, and we respect differencing of opinion. And it's like so cool that I found that in a church. It's not just some random book club on a Thursday night or some community center run event. Like, my church is probably the most liberal and diverse and progressive communities I've ever been a part of. And I'm so proud of that, because I have been able to encounter the grace and beauty and wonder of God in such a deeper way, because it's brought my thinking outside the box.
Yeah, that's cool. And how do you know, so being a church in SoCal and all that, they could have just played it safe, just be another same old church, another conservative church. What do you know what made the pastors want to make that jump and be more gay affirming?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Corey, our pastor, is like brilliant. Like, he's in my top 3. Don't tell him this, his ego. I'm just kidding. I love him. He's probably like top 3 most smartest people I've ever been around. Like, outside of like Duncan Corby or Robert Ferguson, like, he's up there. He's well-read, very gifted communicator, very gifted thinker. And he was a lead teaching pastor at 22 and climbed up the ladders of the mega church world, and kind of got to the top and was doing that for a while, and just kind of was like, is this it? Is this it? And kind of saw some things, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to leave this, and I'm going to go start something new. And the best thing about our church is when I first got there and I kept meeting, my friend Darren, who was on staff at a church in Georgia, or Britt, who just recently moved to Austin, but she was our Black lesbian pastor who was very gifted and smart. They all got fired from their churches for being gay. So here you have these really smart, charismatic, gifted, talented people that passionately love Jesus and want to reach people, and yet they get fired because of their sexuality. So our church kind of like gathered them up and started this thing. And what's great about it is it's not all just gay people. Like, we have, like, that's probably the thing that healed me, is walking in and knowing that at least half the people there are straight, and yet they're still super affirming and still celebrating and still excited that I just came out. Like, they champion me. And I don't know. And I, in a way, like, I'm thankful that Corey's a straight guy that's married with kids, Because I think it's really powerful that, I don't know, he just comes from that place and he's able to lead the way in creating this amazing environment for us.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people don't know that people from the LGBTQ like community exist that love Jesus as well. What do you, we kind of talked about this last week. So what do people in the gay tolerant churches and not gay affirming churches, what is the next step for them in trying to reach that people group?
I know when you asked me this question, it was such a difficult one to answer, because I love that over the last couple of years, churches that maybe don't have affirming theology have become more mindful of how they treat gay people and welcome them into their community. But in the same way that if you as a Black man were part of a church that were like, you're welcome to come here, but you're never allowed to be a leader and you're never going to see Black people on platform, how would that make you feel?
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
And to be honest, that's how a lot of churches operate right now, which is like, while we're learning, there needs to be a switch. So for me, like, because I'm all about trying to find a solution, that's a hard one, because I don't want to sit here and say like your theology's wrong or but like, it's a really hard, it's like, I respect that you have the differing opinion for me, but it's really hard to reach people if you feel like they don't have a voice, they don't have representation, they can't ever be on staff. But I know a lot of my friends that still enjoy going to gay tolerant churches because they enjoy the worship or they enjoy the preaching, or they do come from maybe one of my great friends. She's loves Jesus with everything. She's super queer. And she goes to this really strict Calvinist Presbyterian church, even though they totally have to, like, but she loves it because she like loves the theology. She loves the pastor. She loves the community. So, a lot of people do it. I'm just someone that, working through my own internalized homophobia has probably been the hardest thing about me embracing my queer Christian identity. And so for me personally, I needed to be in a space that is affirming. Otherwise, I'm just allowing shame. It's kind of like you being in that church as a Black man and knowing that you never see Black people on platform, you never see Black people on staff, you never see Black people even leading the hosting team. You subconsciously might be thinking, am I less than because of the skin color? Right? No one's probably telling you that. But because you're not seeing it and you're not experiencing it, there's probably some kind of subconscious shame that's there, that maybe you're being judged for your skin tone or that you're seen as second best. And I just don't think that's healthy. And I think that if a gay person was at a gay tolerant church, even if everybody was very nice and kind and respectful and welcoming, but because they're not represented, they're not on staff, they can't lead teams, I still think it's reinforcing this idea that you're broken, that you're being judged, you're second, I don't know. And I just, that makes me like, I'm not about that.
Yeah. And I feel like I kind of know what the answer is going to be for this one, but how do you stay hopeful yet realistic in your church being progressive and making sure not to hurt people groups and somehow be diverse, but you feel like you're not really seeing it done at the top and, like in the staff and all that? How do you stay hopeful and involved, yet still realistic about like staying there or moving on?
Man, that's tough. I know I just listed all the churches that I've been to since I've been in LA, but I really am big about being planted, and I'm big about being part of the solution and not just adding to. I think everybody can criticize, and that's hard. So I think my best advice is, you got to identify what are your values. So I grew up very Southern Baptist. Like there wasn't a single woman on staff at my church, not even for kids ministry, because we really didn't believe in female leadership. And that mindset did not change for me until I went to Australia. And it was a culture shock because I show up and our principal's a woman. Our college pastor, April, was a woman. Our high school pastor at the time was Katie Klober, a woman. Like it was like so much female representation. We heard Joyce Meyer preach. I was like, I thought she was a heretic, and I remember when I left Australia, I was like, I will never attend a church that doesn't believe in female leadership, if that makes sense. Two, another value of mine is I grew up very Calvinist, which is fine, whatever. But I went to Hillsong, which is a little bit more of an Arminian bend, and I got to understand the prophetic a little bit more. I got to see healing and dreams and visions and words. So for me, one of my values is I never want to go to a church that doesn't have space for that. And then now three, even if I can't, and I think I said this to you the other day, even if I was a straight woman, I'm still in a place that I'm not going to attend a church unless they're affirming. So those are my three things. You have to empower female. You have to believe in female leadership. You have to believe in the gifts of the Spirit, and you have to be gay affirming. And if you're all of those three things, I can put up with a lot of things, and I'm here to be part of the solution. If you're not, then I might need to go find somewhere that just is aligned more with who I am. If that makes sense. But I think you got to figure out what your values are, and then you live out of that. Because no church is perfect, and my church is for sure not perfect. And there's things that I missed from Hillsong, and there's things that I missed from Vintage. But at the end of the day, like, this church lines up more with my values, and so I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really great advice. Values, like, just know what they are, see if they align with the church you're a part of. That's really great. I'm thinking about right now, like, do my values. I hope they do. But yeah, what do you see is next for you personally, Laura Browder? Like, what's next in this next season, 2021? Where do you see yourself going?
That's such a heavy question for me, because I feel like I'm in a place that I need to reconsider where I am going. But in a way, I think it's good, because for the longest time, okay, at the beginning of all this, I was pissed that I was coaching volleyball, because I was like, I went to college, I went to this leadership school. All my friends got these great jobs, and they're leading churches or leading these great organizations. And I'm over here leading 20 girls in a sport that I never played, and coaching volleyball used to actually bring a lot of shame to me, because I felt like a loser. But then it was the best gift God ever gave me, because it gave me these years to allow myself to grow who I am outside of what I do, and outside of what title I have, and outside of task, because I felt no sense of worth from what I do. But so what I say that to say is, I think volleyball is maybe on its way out. It makes me so sad to say that. Yeah. But I think it served its purpose. It gave me this space to wrestle with my sexuality. It gave me this space to grow my sense of self and personhood. And I turned 33 this year, which is, I joke, my Jesus year. Hey. And I really believe that God was ready to launch me, that I've been in this season of intense, like, this incubator of growth and pruning. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm open-minded. I'm definitely excited to help grow my church. Like, I want to plan some retreats for our youth, for our adults. I want to set up maybe a life course. I want to do some leadership development with our small group team. And so hopefully with COVID, I'll be able to start doing that a little bit more. But I do want to venture out and try to maybe start doing some life coaching, maybe some motivational speaking, just because the last 6 years just being a coach, it just has taught me so much.
Yeah. And I think I got one more question for you. That's cool. But what words would you use to encourage someone who is maybe wrestling with their sexuality, but are in the church, but don't have anyone to support them, or not quite sure where they're at in life? What are some words of encouragement you would give to them?
Man, first off, please know that just because you are struggling with your sexuality, that God doesn't love you any less. Like, your sexuality doesn't disqualify you or qualify you from how much God loves you. I think what's changed my life was when I found gay Christian friends. So early on, I started to have more gay friends, because I'm a spin instructor. I live in LA, so I got gay people everywhere. But my life didn't change until I found gay Christian friends. And I know that those are hard to come by. And I remember when my friend first challenged me, I think you need to find gay Christian friends. I'm like, do those exist? Like, does those exist? And you'll be surprised. There are so many great resources online, on Facebook, on Zoom, on Meetup. I know our church right now, New Abbey, we live stream. And we never live streamed before COVID. And we have brought in this amazing community of people from all over the world that have been watching it, because we are kind of a rare community. But what helped me is I was a part of this small group called Lavender Mafia, and it was for queer Christians. And being in that every week and identifying with what other people were processing or what other people had gone through just really changed me. It really changed me. So that would be my recommendation, to reach out. If you need help, feel free to reach out to me. Shoot me an email at laura.browder@yahoo.com, or slide into my DMs, whatever you want. But I just think representation matters, which is why, because I'm a product of representation, I'm now for that in so many ways, because it only took, I met these people in October, and by June, I told my dad I thought I was gay. So there you go, even though I was at 33. So community matters. So just know that, like, do not allow yourself to just suffocate in shame. And know that there are queer and affirming communities out there. And there are a lot of straight people that are also for you too.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm glad that you guys are really reaching people and loving on people. And, you know, I feel really safe in, you know, referring someone over to you now that I feel like I said before, we don't know that this kind of church exists. So
yeah,
now that we do, you know, I'd probably recommend your church first over the one I'm attending, just for the people group. But yeah, it gets controversial, but, you know, I just wanted to feel safe and, you know, loved, and to keep coming back and not feel like there's a ceiling over their head, you know. So but yeah, awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man, you're a great question asker, you know. You're super smart, super
it's what I do, you know. But yeah, just want to encourage you before you go. I feel like you're not just only a good woman, but you're a great woman of God. And as you put God first, he's just going to continue to move you forward in all that he's called you to do. And his presence is always with you. Like you said, whether you're wrestling with something or anything like that, his presence was always there. He never left you, and he always loved you. So yeah, thank you for what you do. And yeah, you got this.
Oh, Isaiah, why are you such a legend?
Oh, you know, it's all good. Yeah. Anything you want to promote before we go?
Oh man, promote. You know, my book. No, just kidding. I don't got that yet. Maybe
okay.
I'm kidding. Maybe in the future. I don't know. I think, like, the last thing I just want to say is probably the most refreshing thing about this new church community I've found is we've embraced our humanity. And I think sometimes as Christians, we feel like as soon as we become saved or whatever, that we have to be perfect, that we can't struggle, that we can't be depressed, we can't be angry, we definitely can't be sexual. And I've really, really valued the authenticity that I found, and the room that we give each other room to be human still while we're on the journey. And so I would just encourage people to have the same compassion, you know, for yourself, and to be in the practice of cultivating grace, recognizing that you're never going to arrive. There's never going to be a day that you're sin-free. There's never going to be a day that you aren't struggling with something. And so rather than trying to strive to not have insecurities, fear, or be angry, but learning how to do it in a way that's whole, to do it in a way that's integrated, that and that you find God in that. And the last thing I'll say is, I know I said that the last time, is learning to recognize that the Spirit of God has always been within you. And it's not something you have to go earn. It's not something you have to go get. It's not something you have to beg God to come near and invite you in. He's actually there right now. And it's as you learn to see God in you, it helps you to see God in other people. And I think sometimes if we could get more people in the church to look intrinsically rather than externally, I think a lot of good fruit would come from that.
Amen. That's awesome stuff. Always motivating. And how can we reach your church? Or they have an IG page or something?
Yeah, let me pull it up. So on our new Abbey is new_Abbey_church. That's on Instagram. And when you click on it, if you go to our link tree, you'll be able to, we have, you can't really tell my phone, but we offer our online Sunday gathering. It's Sundays at 10 a.m., maybe 10:10 sometimes, you know. We have smaller groups, which is an easy way to find community because a lot of them are on Zoom right now. And yeah, we also have a podcast. We put all of our sermons up on YouTube. So if maybe Sunday you're busy or you're at brunch, feel free to check that out. And yeah, like I said, feel free to hit me up. I can help connect you.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you again for coming on, and have a good night and all that.
Thanks, Isaiah. I appreciate you so much.
It's all good. And for everyone else, until next time, as we're maturing, we're going to keep learning, stirring up, and chasing after what our Creator created us to do. So have a good one, everyone. Peace.